Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we're going to start our Sunday program. And first of all, I want to wish everyone happy Mother's Day a little bit early. Today, as you know, we've been honoring mothers because Mother's Day is next Sunday, inshallah. We have a very distinguished guest speaker for our ICSC Sunday program, Sister Gail Kennard, who will be presenting on mothers in Islam. Sister Gail Kennard has been involved with the Islamic Center of Southern California for 35 years, mashallah. As an alumni parent, she is a former board chair of the New Horizons School, Pasadena. She has delivered Quran commentary during the center's Ramadan program for several years and is especially interested in the role of women in Islam, mashallah. Professionally, she heads the Kennard Design Group, an architectural firm founded by her late father, Robert Kennard, and she currently serves as a member of the Islamic Center of Southern California's Building Committee, which has embarked on an effort to revitalize and renovate the center's main building on Vermont Avenue, right here. So please give a warm welcome to Sister Gail Kennard.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? Okay. Happy Mother's Day early Mother's Day to all the mothers and grandmothers. And so I'm really pleased to be here today. I want to give you a bit of a background on something that you probably know. But before we start, I want to kind of give you an outline of how I'm going to proceed. So I'm going to share with you several ayats from Quran. I have about 10 slides. And the sister here, Lamia, is graciously going to recite the Arabic from the ayats, and then I will read the English. Okay? So this is the first slide, but before we start, I want to remind you about a hadith that many of you have probably heard before. And it's from Abu Hurairah. And the hadith goes that a person asked the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, who amongst the people is most worthy of good treatment? And he said, your mother. And then after that, who after that? And the Prophet said, what did the Prophet say? Your mother, okay? And then after that, and the Prophet said, your mother, 3 times, right? And then after that, the 4th time, your father, right? Alhamdulillah. So in the time that we have today, what I'd like to do is talk about 3 different topics. The first one is how are mothers in general referenced in Quran. So I'm going to be sharing with you some ayats that you're familiar with that talk about the specific issue of mothers in general. And then after that, I wanted to go into talk about how Quran referenced specific mothers and the story of specific mothers in Quran. And finally, I'd like to end with how can we use Quran? What guidance can we draw from the Quranic ayats and guidance for us as parents today, mothers and fathers? So we will begin. This is on how mothers are referenced in the Quran. And this is from Surah Luqman, this one what you see on the screen. And in the surah, Luqman is giving advice to his son. So Sister Lamia, do you want to read the Arabic for us?
Of course. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن أشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير.
Sadaqallahul-Azim. And the English is, and God says, we have enjoined upon man goodness toward his parents. His mother bore him by bearing strain upon strain, and his utter dependence on her lasted 2 years. Hence, O man, be grateful towards me and towards thy parents, and remember that with me is all journeys end. So there's a lot to unpack in this very brief ayah here, but one of the things I want to call your attention to is when Allah says that the mother bears the child strain upon strain. What is he talking about there? What is he talking about? He's talking about childbirth, right? Labor. All of us who are mothers know that this is difficult, right? Difficult. So let me go on to another one, and I'll go back to Luqman, but I wanted to just reference this issue of childbirth. Sister Lamia?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فجاءها المخاض إلى جذع النخلة قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا.
Sadaqallahu Azim. So this is the surah about Maryam, or the story of her experience is related. And in this particular ayat, it says, and the pains of childbirth drove her to the trunk of a palm tree. She cried in her anguish, ah, would that I had died before this. Would that I had been a thing forgotten and out of sight. That's pretty dramatic. I mean, can you imagine the situation here? This is Maryam. She did not ask for this situation, right? She's carrying a child. She's ostracized. She's cast out of her society because she's basically a woman without a husband. And then she's in this horrible situation where she's in excruciating pain. And she actually wants to die. It's just so bad that she's calling out for death, right? So then we know as the rest of the story continues, Allah sends mercy to her. A rivulet of water comes down so she can drink. And she's told to shake the palm tree, right in this ayah, shake the palm tree, and the dates fall down. And I gather from this story that there's a difficulty of childbirth, which is intense difficulty. But in the midst of that, there's also ease. There's the water, there's the dates. And it's such a beautiful metaphor for life itself, right? So we have this difficult time, this excruciating pain that she's enduring, but at the same time, Allah sends her ease. And so we know the other ayats about فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. After difficulty, there's ease. So then I'll go back again to the first. I can go back. Okay, so I was talking about this issue of childbirth. And I remember very vividly a khutbah I heard by Dr. Gasser Hattuth many years ago. And he says, this is very significant because Allah commanded Mary to have this child, right? This was not her choice. He could Allah very easily could have relieved her of at least the pain of childbirth, right? He's the creator of the heavens and the earth. He could have at least done that, but no, he does not. And that's such a powerful message to us, not only as women, but everyone, that there's a reason for this. There's a difficulty in life that we all have to endure, but then Allah promises us also the ease after the difficulty. And we have this beautiful child. And all mothers know we go through this horrible labor, and then as soon as the child enters the world, we're joyful. It's like, we've made it. It's alhamdulillah. So then I wanted also to go into another situation that was pointed out to me. I did some research on this. In this ayat where it talks about after the strain upon strain, he says his utter dependence, meaning the child's utter dependence on her, the mother, lasted 2 years. And some of the commentaries, which was interesting to me, said that 2 years actually starts with conception. So if all of us who know who are mothers, it doesn't just end with the labor of childbirth. There's this whole prenatal period where there's morning sickness and there's fatigue and there's all kinds of issues, right? So in this ayat is saying, it lasts 2 years, which kind of makes sense. I mean, maybe 40 weeks, 9 months, and then the period of the nursing of the child is another, 12 months, a year, half a year, whatever. So I just wanted to point that out. And then finally, again, in this ayah, this beautiful ayah, it talks about being grateful to Allah first, right? And then towards your parents, and be grateful towards me and towards thy parents. And remember that with me is all journeys end. So it's all about this whole circle of life, right? So in the time when the mother's giving birth, you're thinking about the future, but we have to be reminded that this is finite, our life is fleeting, and it's gonna come to an end. So then I'm gonna go to the third slide, which is the next ayat after the one we just read from Luqman. So Sister Lamia, do you want to read this for us, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون.
So this is the same, this is right after the preceding ayat. And Allah commands us to revere thy parents, yet should they endeavor to make thee ascribe divinity side by side as divine with me to something which thy mind cannot accept as divine, obey them not. But even then, bear them company in this world's life with kindness, and follow the path of those who turn towards me. In the end, unto me you all must return, and thereupon I shall make you truly understand all that you were doing in life. This is a great reminder to parents that we are not to worship anything except Allah, even our parents, right? That we do not follow blindly, even our parents, if they're ascribing things to other than Allah, right? And this comes up repeated in the Quran, as you know. Do not believe as your fathers were believing, if the fathers were not believing in the oneness of Allah. So it's to me, this is just a beautiful reminder of the balance that we have. Even if we do have issues with our parents, if they're ascribing divinity to others, we're still to have kindness to them. We're still to be kind. We're not supposed to cast them out and say, oh, you're non-believer. It's saying is be balanced. Be kind to them, especially as they enter their older age, right? So alhamdulillah. So this is what I was talking about in terms of the mothers in general. There are citations in Quran, and there are others also. But then I wanted to shift to another topic that I mentioned, and that is what can we learn from the mothers, specific mothers, stories of specific mothers in Quran. So I'm going to go to the mother of, whoops.
That this is, okay, that's working. Try refresh. Okay. Hold on.
We lost it.
No, that's not it. Okay. Let me stop sharing the screen for a second. Let me try it. Let's try again. Sorry. Should be here. I had it. Oh wait, it's this one. That's right. Okay, let me load it and open it again. Okay, we'll do it this way. Wait, hold on.
Just go. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, I have to share the screen again. No, it's not this, sorry. Zoom.
Want to use this here?
So for this, you can just, I think we are on this one.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I apologize. We're dealing with an analog person in a digital world. That would be me. So, okay. So to refresh. So I was going to talk about some of the stories of the mothers of stories about mothers that are mentioned in Quran. And the first one is the mother of Moses. I love this story. There's a whole surah, Qasas about this. So Sister Lamia, do you want to read this particular ayah?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأوحينا إلى أم موسى أن ارضعيه فإذا خفت عليه فألقيه في اليم ولا تخافي ولا تحزني إنا ردوه إليك وجاعلوه من المرسلين.
Thank you so much. So this is about the mother of Moses, and it says in English, the translation is, and so when he was born, this is Moses, we inspired thus the mother of Moses, suckle him for a time, and then when thou hast cause to fear for him, cast him into the river, and have no fear and do not grieve, for we shall restore him to thee and shall make him one of our message bearers. Really powerful ayah about this story. So number one, Allah is inspiring the mother of Moses. This is a direct quote from Allah in Revelation to her. Allah is communicating directly to Moses, even before Moses becomes a messenger. Okay, let me say that again. The mother of Moses is receiving direct communication from Allah before her son becomes the messenger of Allah. Okay? So then the story continues, and I'm not going to repeat all the ayats here, but we know the story. The mother is given permission. Actually, in this ayat, it says, when thou, meaning the mother of Moses, has cause to fear for him, the child, cast him into the river. So the ayat is giving agency to the mother of Moses. It's saying, you decide when you think things are getting so bad that your baby is at risk. So she's taken responsibility for this, okay? So then she can decide the time and the place of this particular situation, right? And she does. And so the next ayats talk about, she asks her daughter to take the baby into the river, cast him into the river. Huge trauma. You can only imagine what she must have been going through. Cast him into the river. Then the Egyptians find the baby. Remember, the Egyptians are the enemies at this point, right? They find the baby. They could have killed him, right? But then the Pharaoh's wife intervenes and they adopt the baby, okay? Huge drama, daring story about this baby. So then it continues. Sister Lamia?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأصبح فؤاد أم موسى فارغا إن كانت لتبدي به لولا أن ربطنا على قلبها لتكون من المؤمنين فقالت لأخته قصيه فبصرت به عن جنب وهم لا يشعرون.
Thank you. So then this continues. I just related what happened. And then these ayats continue on with the story of the mother of Moses. And it says, on the morrow, soon after she's done this, however, an aching void grew up in the heart of the mother of Moses. And she would indeed have disclosed all about him had we not endowed her heart with enough strength to keep alive her faith in our promise. So she's wavering. Any mother would. I mean, this is traumatic stuff, right? But then she says, oh, she's strengthened. Allah sends her mercy and strength, and she hatches an idea. She says, and so she said to his sister, follow him. And the girl watched him from afar, while they who had taken him in were not aware. Huge amount of faith, right? And the mother, again, we're all human. Allah reminds us she was weak. She could easily have gone and said, wait a minute, this is my baby. You know, what are you doing? No, but we know the story. What happened was She was soon reunited with Moses, of course, because the sister goes and tells the family that, oh, there seems to be a problem here. The baby is not nursing. But I know a woman who could nurse this baby for you and take care of her. So we know the story of how she's restored to the mother of Moses. The lesson of this story, I think, is that faith in Allah is everything for us as a mother. The most precious thing to you is your child, right? She had to have greater faith in Allah, that Allah knew what was best, and that someday, with patience, everything would become clear and she'd know what happened to her child. So then we go on to another story that was just reenacted actually today at the center when we had the reenactment of the Hajj. And this is a story of the mother of Ishmael. Her name is not mentioned in Quran, but her actions are definitely mentioned. So Sister Lami, you want to read about that?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت واعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم صدق الله.
And hence, behold, Al-Safra and Al-Marwa are among the symbols set up by God, and thus no wrong does he who, having come to the temple on pilgrimage or on a pious visit, strides to and fro between these two. For if one does more good than he is bound to do, behold, God is responsive to gratitude, all-knowing. So we know the story also of the mother of Ishmael. She's the wife of Abraham. She's taken from where she was living and put in the desert. Abraham leaves her in the desert with her young infant son, Ishmael. And she has nothing. There's nothing there at all. There's no food, there's no water. And Abraham just goes, right? Her faith is strong enough that she says, okay, this is my circumstance. She's praying to Allah, but for help. But in addition to that, what does she do? She's running. She's literally running between the mountains of Safa and Marwa. And this lesson is so beautiful for us in all of our lives. We can pray to Allah, we can make dua, but we also have to act. We have to get up and move. In this case, she had to run. And she didn't find anything at Safa and Marwa, right? It was futile. But she comes back to baby Ishmael, and up comes the spring, the water of Zamzam. This lesson is so clear to me in my own life. I think about things when I'm trying to make a decision. I'm trying to do this and do that. Will this resolve my problem? And most of the time, it really doesn't. Everything that I'm doing is really without any help at all to me. But I remember this story because eventually help has come to me and the problem gets resolved. So what a beautiful lesson. Wonderful story. Act. Don't just sit and wait. We have faith, but we also have to move. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the story of the mother of Mary. Okay, this is not Mary herself. We already spoke about her ultimate mother in the book in Quran, right? But this is Mary's mother. And Sister Lami, you want to read the Arabic?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ قالت امرأة عمران ربي إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم فلما وضعتها قالت ربي إني وضعتها أنثى والله أعلم بما وضعت وليس الذكر كالأنثى وإني سميتها مريم وإني أعيذها بك وذريتها من الشيطان الرجيم صدق الله العظيم.
Sadaqallah. So this is the prayer. The first part, this first ayat, it says, behold, a woman of Imran said, O my Lord, I do dedicate unto thee what is in my womb for thy special service. So accept this of me, for verily thou alone art all-hearing, all-knowing. When she delivered, she said, O my Lord, behold, I have given birth to a female child. And God knew best what she had brought forth. And no wise is the male like the female. I have named her Mary, and I commend her and her offspring to thy protection from the evil one, the rejected. This is such a wonderful prayer for parents. There's two parts of this. So first the mother of Mary is saying, look, I'm pregnant, And whatever happens, this child I want to devote to Allah's service. Wonderful prayer. How many of us have done that? Not many of us. I didn't do it. So she's dedicating it. And then when the baby is delivered, she's saying, okay, this is my child. I'm going to name her Mary. And I commend not only her, but her offspring to the care of Allah and protection against the shaitan. It's just a beautiful way of thinking about this. And when I reflect on this surah, I think about how we are, as mothers, we bear the children. And it's only with Allah's mercy that we have children, right? They come from us. They come from us, but they are not us. Okay? They are not little us. They are creations of Allah. And we are given care of them for a brief period of time. They are not us. We have the privilege of nurturing them and guiding them, but they're not us, okay? So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So anyway, just to recap, I talked about how mothers are revered and that we should revere our mothers in Quran. We are commanded to do this. So Mother's Day is perfectly okay. We can celebrate Mother's Day. Some people say we should do it every day. Every day is Mother's Day. So all of you out there, please reach out to your mother, even before Mother's Day, right? And express your gratitude and love for her. On the other hand, we have to keep this in perspective that not all of our parents are great, right? We all have parents that are maybe problematic. And then I'll talk about how we too can be problematic, okay? So that's the first thing, that the role of mothers. And the stories that I related about these wonderful mothers, the mother of Isa, salam, the mother of Moses, the mother of Ishmael, and the mother of Mary herself. So then now I come to the more difficult part. Today, okay? I'm a parent. Some of you may relate to some of the things that I'm going to share with you today. Being a parent is not easy. And Quran tells us that we will be tested as parents. Two things we're tested about. We're tested about with our wealth, how well we handle our wealth, and how well we handle our children. Children, in my view, can be much more difficult than wealth. This is a story I wanted to share with you about an example of guidance that Allah is giving to parents in Quran, and it has to do with marriage. It has to do with the Prophet. Many of you know this history. The Prophet had arranged for the marriage of his adopted son Zayd to his cousin Zainab. And he was very well intentioned in this. He wanted to send a message to the new community that, you can marry, your adopted sons can marry whoever. It was also a class issue. And so he's really well intentioned on this. But the marriage is a disaster. The two people are not well suited for each other. And so it doesn't go very well. And so this revelation comes down to the Prophet. And this is only a part of it. And it says in the translation, for thou, and the Quran is talking about the Prophet, thou didst stand in awe of what people might think, speaking of the marriage of Zayd and Zainab, whereas it was Allah alone of whom thou should have stood in awe. This is amazing. The Quran, we're saying what the Prophet himself is chastised for arranging this marriage. Even though he's well-intentioned, again, he's well-intentioned. But Allah says, no. Why? Because it reminds us he was more concerned about what others were thinking about than his own son and his family member, right? It is so typical of what we all deal with it sometime in our lives. We should be more concerned about the well-being of our children than about what other people are going to think about the situation, right? And how often does that happen in marriages? We think we're arranging a marriage because these two families know each other. They're all familiar. And in many cases, that's all wonderful. But if the children themselves have characteristics and traits that are not compatible, and only the parents know that the best, this is not a good thing, right? And then it goes into other issues that we can extrapolate from this about our own inability sometimes to look at the actual well-being of our children, and it becomes more about us. So marriage is one example. My son just married so-and-so. My daughter just married so-and-so. This is great. My son is going to Stanford University. My daughter is going to Harvard University. You know, my son is going to be an engineer. My daughter is going to be a physician. Is that really about them, the children? Or is that about you as a parent and your boasting? Remember I told you about the wealth and the children being a test? Yeah. There's a lot of ayats in there that talks about don't boast. Don't boast about your children. So I think we have to understand that we need to support our children for who they are, not for who we want them to be. Okay? Allah has blessed every single one of us with many gifts. Not everybody has the gift of being an engineer. Not everybody has the gift of being a physician, even if you come from a line of physicians and engineers, okay? We should, as parents, nurture the gifts that each child has been given, divinely given by Allah. It's not about us. It's about the well-being of our children. And we can say, well, I want the best for them. If they're an engineer, if they're a physician, they're going to be wealthy. They're going to be happy in their lives. It's a prestigious career. They'll make money. They'll be financially secure. Okay. But if there's something that that child is not doing that they're supposed to do, or if they're unhappy being a physician or an engineer, they're not going to be that successful. They will be successful with the natural gifts that Allah bless them with, even if they don't make a lot of money. Okay? And that's a hard thing for parents because we all want the best for our children. Finance is a big thing, right? But we also have to be understanding, and Allah's warning us. We have to be understanding of what that child is really, the gifts that that child is given. So another thing, I'm going to shift for a moment. And this is all in the same thing of wanting the best for our children. As you know, right now, many of our children are on college campuses and they are protesting against the war in Gaza. It's a test for us as parents. These children, these are our youth, our bright futures. They are doing exactly what we're telling them to do. They are enjoining what is right and they are forbidding what is wrong. As Muslims, they're standing up for the right. So it is our responsibility to be proud of what they're doing and then support them. Support them with our words and in other ways, whatever we can do. Even though we have our fears. As parents, we have our fears. But please, I implore you as parents, do not communicate those fears to your children because they are doing what is right. You can say, oh, well, they're going to ruin their lives. They're going to get arrested. They might not finish school. They're going to get expelled. They might get injured. They might get killed. These are all our fears as parents, right? But if they are doing what is right and enjoining what is wrong, how can we as Muslim parents not support them in doing that? And there's a long history, as you all know, of students in colleges who have maybe not short-term gains, but over time, the things that they stood up for were viewed as right in the end. And I have no doubt at all, that the protests that are against the war in Gaza and the atrocities that are happening there, this is the right side of history, and we should support our parents, our children. So, inshallah. Tough stuff, right? Tough stuff. Challenging for parents. Okay, lastly, I want to go the toughest one of all. The toughest one of all. This is the most difficult challenge for parents. And that has to do with faith. Sister Lamia?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ونادى نوح ربه فقال ربي إن ابني من أهلي وإن وعدك الحق وأنت أحكم الحاكمين قال يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك إنه عمل غير صالح فلا تسأل ما ليس لك به علم إني أعدك أن تكون من الجاهلين صدق الله العظيم.
Sadaqallahu Adhim. So this is from the Surah Al-Hud. And this is about a parent, the prophet Noah. And it's very instructive for us. For any of us who have children who we feel are going astray, who are going off the path of Islam, who are going off the path of faith, of any faith. So what does Quran tell us about these situations? The Quran says, and Noah called out to his sustainer and said, O my sustainer, verily my son was of my family, and verily thy promise always comes true, and thou art the most just of all judges. God answered, O Noah, behold, he was not of thy family, for verily he was unrighteous in his conduct, and thou shalt not ask of me anything whereof thou canst not have any knowledge. Thus, behold, do I admonish thee, lest thou become one of those who are unaware of what is right. Whew. This is the time where the prophet Noah, he's building the ark, and he's calling his family and all the righteous people to join the ark because he knows there's going to be this flood. And his son says, no, it's fine. I'm going up in the mountains. No problem. I'll be okay. Noah knows it's not going to happen. I mean, what kind of test is that for a parent? And so Noah calls out to Allah and says, look, he's my son. He's good. He's good. He should be saved. And Allah says, no, I know what you know not. Whoa. Whoa. That's huge. It's a huge thing. What is our response to this? In my way of thinking, I look at the son of Noah as having a spiritually drowning. In my way of thinking, this story is telling us that Allah alone makes believers. Allah makes believers. Allah makes us Muslims or not. And not a parent, even the parent who's a prophet, okay? We know of examples of children that have come from wonderful Muslim homes, right? And they don't follow the path, right? It's not in our hands. We as parents cannot make our children Muslims. That is not what we can do. We don't have the power to do that. I look at my own example. I came from a non-Muslim home, and I became a Muslim. My parents didn't even know about Islam. They were not praying for me to become a devout Muslim, right? They were tolerant of me. And Allah knows best. This is another example of a prophet and a loved one. Sister Lamia?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وهو أعلم بالمهتدين صدق الله العظيم.
This is the story that we think is related to the prophet's uncle, Abu Talib. This is during the time of his illness and he was on his deathbed. And the ayat comes, verily, thou canst not guide aright everyone whom thou lovest, but it is God who guides him that wills to be guided, and he is fully aware of all who let themselves be guided. So again, a prophet who loves his uncle. His uncle was such a loving man, protected him against the Quraysh, but at the end of his life, he did not renounce the religion of the Quraysh. So if the prophet can't, if Noah can't, who are we to say, we're going to make our children Muslims? They're all Muslims, right? Well, we can delude ourselves in thinking that. But no, it's in Allah's hands. It's out of our hands. So what can we do? We can pray for our children. We can pray for them. We can ask Allah to protect them. We can ask Allah to strengthen their faith. And we must recognize also that all of us change over time. Spiritual drowning can be reversed. The child that you know today may not be the teenager or the adult of tomorrow, right? And we have to hold out. As long as our children are with us, as long as they're living, there's a hope that they can change, that spiritual drowning can be reversed. There are many examples in Quran of people who are not believers and whose hearts were open to faith. So we pray for our children. We can also be the best example we can be. We can set a good example of what is right and what is wrong. We can support them. We can be tolerant of them, just as my parents were tolerant of me, even though they didn't understand what I was doing to become a Muslim. We can admit when we have made mistakes, and we can ask our children to forgive us. I said, parenting is not easy, and we will make mistakes. Allah is all forgiving, full of loving kindness. And we should all aspire to have that quality of loving kindness to others, especially to our own children. So with that, I close. I thank you for your attention. I pray that you will forgive me for anything that I said that was incorrect. Jazakallah khair. Happy Mother's Day.
Anyone have any questions? Okay.
Thank you for a great lecture. My question is about the slide that you had about the mother of Imran, or the wife of Imran, who gave birth to the baby girl. And it seems from that ayah that she was expecting a boy. I want to see you tell me your opinion.
Okay.
About why was she expecting a boy?
Okay, I'm gonna make I'm gonna go out on a limb here because you'll notice that I don't have a translation person there. I didn't say it was Muhammad Assad or Yusuf Ali, because when I read the translations always implied that she was disappointed that she had a son. But this is something for us to look into more deeply. And the Arabic, we need to look and see what does it really say, because in all the translations I see it's in parentheses that she was disappointed or she was not happy that she had a girl. But that's not what the ayat says in the Arabic, as far as I can see. And the fact that she goes on to say, she's named her Mary. She's like, I'm claiming this child. This is mine. And I defer to Allah to know what's best and what her life's going to be like. So yeah, thank you for that question, because that was troubling to me, because in most of the translations, it always says, oh yeah, she thought she was going to have a boy because of course the boys are the superior, right? But that says the male is not like the female, not that the one is better than the other. And I've given you examples of women, the mother of Moses, Mary, that got direct communication from Allah. Okay, so we have to be very careful. And this is something I'm very sensitive about, that we translate things correctly, not put our own assumptions on things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Gail Kennard, for this beautiful lecture. Very heartfelt and very inspiring. And please join us for Doha prayer in our ICSC prayer hall. Thank you so much. Sorry.